Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome here to the debut race of the TNR Superspeedway Series as we kick things off at the hallowed grounds of the High Bank 2.5-mile Superspeedway. This is Daytona International. I'm Seth Cole, alongside of Matthew Rodriguez. Matt, 11 drivers going to be taking the green flag here tonight. You gave me a big education on the cars they're driving here this evening as well, so this may be a somewhat different Superspeedway race than most people are used to.
Absolutely. These era of cars were really in that time where NASCAR and really the Cup and Xfinity series were having to deal with the trouble of two-car tandems and really these two-car breakaways. So NASCAR made a lot of changes, a lot of implementations to kind of force these cars not to be bumper to bumper. Well, this is kind of a result here. Right now, if let's say someone gets on someone's bumper, tries to push them ahead, their oil temp will skyrocket. It will go from 220 degrees all the way to 280, and you've got about a lap before that engine wants to blow. So you're going to see a lot of strategy tonight, a lot of people trying to time their runs, maybe with teammates, maybe with friends. But also another problem is going to be you get really, really strong runs in these cars, but the problem is at Daytona, there's just not a lot of room to take it. You've got to find your way around.
It'll be interesting to see about the alliances here tonight as well as we look at the starting lineup. Jason Gracias on the pole alongside of Steven Doziak Jr. By my count, 5 Chevrolets in the field, 3 Toyotas, and 3 Fords. So, do we see the manufacturers team up, or are we going to see some alliances between drivers of different manufacturers?
I can easily see some alliances just with different manufacturers, and because they're really just friends in different teams. Obviously, I can see kind of Jason Gracias working with Alonso Chicano, Cam Caldwell, all part of the same team. Also, same with Mike Tellier. Everyone's just kind of running their own preferred manufacturers, but I'm really liking this lineup here.
Saw there the drivers that had taken time down through, I believe it was Austin Grover in 6th. Got Tristan Mayer and Matt Monticelli. They're going to be in row 4. Cam Caldwell, David Durand in 9th and 10th, and Mike Tellier in the 97 will complete the field, starting this race from the 11th position. 60 laps of racing here, so not really a sprint, but not really a long one either. Strategy will come into play in this race as well as the green flag is out, and we are underway here in the TNR Sunday Superspeedway Series.
It's also worth noting that these drivers also have to compete with a reduced fuel load. 75% fuel in these cars, that's going to kind of kick the strategy game up a little bit with the drafting here.
It's also going to make things interesting. Let's say we go into a long green flag run of, what type of groups do we see coming to pit road? Would it be all 11 cars, or would we see maybe a few drivers stuck onto pit lane on their own and leave the other drivers and maybe see who comes out on top of coming to pit lane on different laps?
That's the thing. You don't want to be the lone man out there off the fuel strategy. So when a lot of cars say they're coming in, I'd expect a big group to follow and then maybe a team or so to stay out and try to push the envelope on this fuel. I mean, that was one, 2 laps can easily win you the race.
So it's going to be interesting to see here as we saw Steven Doziak Jr. take the lead from the top. There you see Alonso Chicano on the inside, because I'm almost thinking that with these type of cars and what you've told me, if you're that race leader, you're a sitting duck because those runs are going to generate in a hurry behind you.
Ooh, and there's got a little bit squirrely back there of Austin Grover. It looks like Kyle Lewis. Actually, no, it wasn't Kyle Lewis. It was Matt Monticelli.
I think there might have been a car that was blinking for a brief moment there, and that stacked everybody up. Some drivers lifted, some drivers did not. They all keep it pointing in the right direction, and there's that tandem you were talking about. Tristan Mayer going to push Jason Gracias to the point. Bear in mind, at the drop of the green, Gracias dropped back to about the 6th position. All of a sudden, he's back up at the front, about to maybe lead the 2nd lap of the night.
Now here comes the big communication, and this is going to be kind of the trouble spot between teammates and non-teammates, where if you're not in that same audio Discord or audio even in race, you're going to see a lot of these guys peeking out, trying to get a little bit of air on that nose, but if the guy behind you thinks you're trying to pass, they're obviously going to pull in front of you, taking away that air. So I'd see that come into more play as laps go on later in the race.
It was interesting because we were talking about this aero package just before we came on the air, and you were talking about the similarity to the 2011 Cup package that they had, about how drivers would get to that left rear quarter panel, poke the nose out to get a little bit of air to the grill. I mean, will we see drivers brave enough to do that here tonight? Is it possible to line these bumpers up enough and not hook that car in front, or is the ability to generate a run just too great that there's the possibility you could hook that car in the left front in front of you?
It's easily possible, but a lot of these guys are really just trying this car for even the first time. And they're realizing how different it is from the current Xfinity Series car and even the Camping World Truck Series trucks, they just don't handle like this. They're more boaty, they're more kind of floaty. We're going to see that a lot tonight, but I say as the laps go on, they're going to get a little bit more comfortable. They're going to get a little bit more brave.
Chicano going to go to the point now. We got a couple of drivers that have lost touch with the lead pack. Mike Teller in the 97, Austin Grover in the 83. I don't know if this is a strategy or if it was a result of that stack up we saw there on the first lap, and maybe why these guys have drifted back as far as they have. 5 seconds and growing the gap between those guys and this lead pack.
I believe it was off of when Grover touched the wall. He touched the wall initially, managed to stay up in that lead pack, but whenever the incident with Matt Monticelli happened, that kind of knocked Grover all the way back down. I saw Mike trying to push him, but it almost seems like there's either an aero or engine issue on the 83 at the moment, or maybe they just have some super secret strategy I'm just not realizing.
Whatever the strategy is, it's not working for the moment. They are losing ground. Maybe they expect that we're going to be possibly seeing a wreck take place here, seeing a lot of movement up here with just 8-9 cars in this lead pack. So
look at the run that Gracias got.
And Cam Caldwell there as well, getting that big push on the top side. He'll edge ahead out of turn 4, but inside line with Chicano and Lewis. Going to try and battle back. Not quite able to do it. I think you're going to see that top side be the preferred line to get those runs as well, because you can stay in the throttle a lot longer. You get better launch off the exit of 2 and 4 onto the straightaways. There is an area there, especially off of turn 4, where the car will tighten up on that inside line and really hurt you in the straightaway speed.
Yeah, and I'm looking at Tristan Maher here at the moment, and I'm wondering if Maher's really testing how fast he can catch back up to this pack. I've noticed him almost accordion back to and fro, and every time you just see him come at these cars almost 10 miles an hour quicker. It is just insane the runs you're getting on these things.
Saw just how close Chicano got to the back bumper of Cam Caldwell down the back straightaway. They're trying to make something happen on that top side. I think the third car in line there is Garrett Gleason, I believe. Oh, no, that is Tristan Maher in the 98. And then behind him, Matt Monticelli in the 84. 4 cars on the top. 5 cars on the bottom. Right now, the inside line prevails. But again, as you pointed out, it could get to a point if you can get those bumpers lined up for a long enough period of time and keep the water temperatures cool enough, we could end up seeing 2 cars beating 3, 4, 5 cars in a line.
Easily. And I'm kind of shocked that Garrett Gleason's up this high in the standings and really just up here in this whole kind of battle here. Normally, he's one of those guys who stays at the way back of the pack, usually right around where Mike Telly and Austin Grover are right now. As Gleason's on the wall, he saves it, but he's going to lose that main pack.
What would have led to that? I mean, is there a possibility of overheating that right front? Is that something these drivers have to worry about here? Because obviously, with how close they're racing to each other, they're carrying a lot more speed than they would if there was a bit of space between their bumpers. They're almost hitting 195 going here into turn 1. I mean, is our tire something they would have to be concerned about?
Not usually. I almost wonder if he just kind of lost concentration or just didn't realize how close his car was to the wall. Since these are just a little bit different than the current Xfinity cars, which TNR does race on Mondays. Not saying he doesn't have enough experience, but I'm just wondering, maybe the different cars kind of throwing him off.
David Durand now going to move to the point with help from Cam Caldwell. Tristan Maher on that top side trying to get some help from Steven Doziak Jr. That's a couple of Fords on the top working against a couple of Chevrolets on the bottom.
But you got to be careful of how much you stay behind. Look at Doziak here. Doz is doing that trick where he's keeping a little bit of the bumper out and still pushing the 98, helping him forward.
That time it was, I was talking about doing it to the left rear. That was to the right rear. And in all honesty, I think that's probably the better place to do it. Just because I would think that it'd be a little bit easier to line the bumpers up moving to the left to center them than it would be to try and move up to the right if you're trying to push on that left rear quarter panel.
I've always found a little bit of an advantage being on that left rear panel. Because here's the thing, if the car in front does wiggle a little bit, they can fly up the track a little bit, still have time to recover it. But if I'm pushing on the right rear, I have a chance to hook them into the fence when they get loose, or maybe if I give them a little bit of a bad bump.
Just going to bring this up here as well. I mean, these guys so far have been able to keep it clean and green. We know that the aggressiveness is going to ramp up when we get into the second half of this race. Even if we end up getting to a round of green flag pit stops, we'll start to see the aggressiveness pick up. But these drivers do have a faster pair available to them in this race. Obviously, they don't want to use it here in the first 10 laps. It's still door-to-door. Durand and Maher, neither one can seem to get an edge off the corner.
And that's the thing. I really think that these cars are just so even at the moment. And I think everyone behind is really so hard to push because you see Cam Caldwell, he's not exactly on that bumper. So that bottom line is not moving, but that top line, Doziak is all over the back bumper of that 98.
With the side-by-side racing, that gave new life to Garrett Gleason. There you see the Nesquik Chevy has caught back up to this lead group. So still got 9 cars up in this lead pack. The 2 cars as we go 3 wide here. Caldwell goes to the middle. He's going to get a big push from, I believe that's the 96 of Alonso Chicano. And those, if I'm not mistaken, are actually teammates, so no surprise, the 2 of them working together to get up to the front.
Oh, it's worth noting, obviously we're going to knock on some wood because there has not been a caution here yet, but this series does utilize the choose cone restarts. So really, the drivers at the start-finish line will choose whether they want the top or bottom lane, and I can already see that making just some alliances, trying to make the outside a powerhouse.
Without a doubt, no doubt about it. When you got the choose cone at the super speedways, you're going to, if you've got teammates that are lined up nose to tail there under pacing, they are going to line up in the same lane. Here comes the run from the top, though. Tristan Maher and Steven Doziak Jr. will not be denied. Big push through the tri-oval and edge that 98 ahead, maybe by a nose there into turn 1. Ooh, but then the 55 disappears for a brief moment. That's a couple of seconds of draft that was lost.
Yeah, Doziak just keeps blinking out, and that's really hampering the run of that top side. I think it's really just intermittent issues, because I didn't see him have these issues in the first few laps, so as you see, Doziak now making a run up in the middle.
And you've also got Chicano going to go to the top side of his teammate using the side draft. We'll see if we can get the edge here off of turn 4. Third lane forming up on the top. Tristan Maher now has
look at him run.
Gracias pushing him. We're going to be 3 abreast at the start-finish line. Advantage to the 12, but by a splitter. They'll still remain 3 wide, 2 rows deep into turn 1.
And obviously, Maher's one of those guys who he has never touched this car. And just look at this. Just some of these guys, just their ability just to quickly adapt to this new car.
And I thought that maybe Maher was going to clear them all there through 1 and 2. Nope, we're still 3 wide, 2 rows deep. Got a little draft there for that third lane with Garrett Gleason. Little draft with the inside lane a little bit further back with Kyle Lewis. Now the middle line's getting some advantage through 3 and 4 as that top side starts to fade and now drops back in behind the 55 of Doziak Jr.
I noticed a little bit of issue there off of that last run where Gracias Maher was actually really going to get that good run out the top side, but Gracias, when he got to his bumper, just hit him just the wrong way and almost sent the 98 into the bottom 2 lanes. Look at Maher!
He this time will clear. Gracias tries to do the same. Look at that. Only took them from the start-finish line to turn 1, and they've gone to P1 and P2. Now the question is, how long does Gracias stay glued to the bumper of the 98? Because his water temperatures have to be rising. Yeah, he's going to have a big run as the 95. Where does he go? He'll go to the bottom with Doziak Jr.
And here's where you really get to find your best buds and say, hey, push me to the lead, and we'll be able to kind of gap this field a little bit. And you see, still back in the field. I wonder if Cam Caldwell and Jason Gracias are kind of reevaluating themselves at the moment, saying, hey, do I really want to push this hard and possibly burn up my fast repair this early? Or, hey, do I think everyone's going to keep it straight?
That's the thing, too. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. If we end up having a driver that has the water temperature peg and the engine expires, the fast repair doesn't necessarily save you because you still have to spend that extra amount of time on pit road getting the engine repaired, right?
No, the fast repair does apply to the engine, but the biggest problem is, let's say you pass pit lane and the engine expires exactly at pit lane exit. You've still got to make it all the way around to the entrance of pit road. And if you don't, then you have to do almost like a 3-minute tow back to pit road. So that's an easy way to take yourself out of contention. So obviously you want to try and safeguard that engine. And plus, these things have a lot more horsepower if it's not overheated.
Riding on board here with Steven Doziak Jr. as he'll jump up to the top side there on the 95 Alonso Chicano, but does not have the help. Cam Caldwell on the bottom is going to keep the 95 out in front for the time being. David Duran going to follow into the 3rd spot, and Kyle Lewis will be the highest running Toyota as he'll slot into the 4th spot.
And here's a new name that we haven't talked about yet, Kyle Lewis. He's trying to make some moves here. Obviously, he hasn't had great luck this season in the Grand National Series. However, obviously he's got a little bit of talent at the Super Speedway series. I remember, I think maybe a season or two back, he dominated another Super Speedway series I was in, and he actually did really well. So I'm thinking he's trying to see if he can. He's trying to see if he can translate that talent over to here.
We'll see if he's going to maybe try and hook up there with fellow Toyota Jason Gracias, who's up on the top side there, maybe saying, hey, Kyle, if you want to make a move, I'll go with you. The other Toyota, Mike Tellier, currently 30 seconds back, along with Austin Grover's Chevrolet. Those guys are obviously clamoring for a caution to come out to save their race, as right now they are in big trouble of maybe in the next, 10 laps or so, with the lap times they're being laid down by this lead pack, they could find themselves a lap down.
I imagine that we're going to see a lot of guys on pit road here in the next 10 laps. I mean, see how everyone's really lining up on that bottom line. I think a lot of these guys are trying to mark their pit entries and trying to get their strategies down because they were expecting a caution early on in this race to kind of bail them out. I don't know if anyone's really practiced pit entry now.
All right, so we know for certain the 95 and the 12, they're probably going to come to pit road together. I would assume that we will, caution!
Caution's out!
Tristan Maher! Slow on
he
the
blew
apron. It. Oh, boy. Well, we wondered about this.
Yep, it blew up on the back straightaway.
First victim to those water temperatures pegging, and the engine going south. That is a big break for Mike Tellier and Austin Grover. And now here's the thing for Tristan Maher. He's got to get that thing coasted back to pit road. I don't think he's going to be able to do it.
Yeah, no, I think he will need some assistance if someone's kind enough to push him, but I think that may be a tow back to pit lane.
Go back and see what happened there with the engine expiring. I'm not certain who it was that he was behind. Oh, he was back here at the very tail end of the pack. So he must have been pushing somebody just prior to that, realized he was in trouble with the water temperatures, tried to drop towards the rear of the field to get those temperatures down, and just didn't do it quickly enough. You saw the plume of smoke out of the back of that car before he even entered into turn 3.
Yeah, he was really looking like he was trying to take it a bit conservatively, but just blew up.
A tough break there for Tristan Maher as he's still trying to coast that thing to pit road, and here comes some assistance, it looks like. That's Austin Grover in the 83, going to help a fellow out, push him.
But here comes the big question in my mind. How many eyes did that open throughout the field, seeing that engine blow and seeing how far Maher was off that pack?
I mean, I think that opened everybody's eyes for sure. And let's bear in mind as well that that was into about, an 18-lap stint. As these drivers running in a pack, they're going to continue to deal with the high water temperatures, regardless if they're up on somebody's back bumper or not. That's something they're going to have to keep an eye on as well of, how long of a stint can I run before I really have to start worrying about that engine blowing when I think I might be safe with having cooled this car down.
I mean, I'm going to tell you, Seth, if it's last few laps, I'm seeing someone who's aggressively pushed their way back up to that front of the field. Of course, I'm going to block him. I'm going to try and make sure they don't get air to that front nose. Because, I mean, that is just one advantage we have to think about of, I'm going to blow up. I got to get out of this pack so I can go get some air.
No surprise that we ended up having everybody come onto pit road here. They'll be obviously taking on some tires, filling up that fuel tank. I gotta wonder, though, I mean, you talked about the 75% fuel capacity for these guys, so I would have to assume that there's at least one more pit stop in their future here, and maybe they'll just kind of split this thing into thirds. Lap 20, they come to pit road here, maybe come to pit road at lap 40, be good to the end?
I could see it. Right now, I imagine a lot of these guys probably took at least a tire set or two. Obviously, because right now, if you come down under green and you have to take tires, that is going to slow down your stop by about 3-4 seconds waiting on tires rather than fuel.
Austin Grover just now making his pit stop. Of course, he helped push Tristan Maher to his stall. Tristan Maher did get the fast repair done since he was able to get to his pit stall, I'll put this in air quotes, under his own power. And he was able to stay on the lead lap, I do believe, as well. No correction. He has actually scored a lap down. So it looks like he'll be -1 when we get ready to go back green. Jason Gracias, though, getting the pole. That paid dividends for him. He was able to win the battle off pit road over Alonso Chicano, David Durand, Cam Caldwell, and Kyle Lewis. That's going to be the top 5 when we get ready to go back green. A third of the way through the race here at Daytona in the season opener for the TNR Sunday Superspeedway Series. Looks like Tristan Maher is going to get his lap back and will be going green momentarily. We're going to step aside for a quick commercial break. You're not going to miss a thing. We'll be back for the green flag after this FRN side by side.
Welcome, race fans. This is Paul Page, the voice of IndyCars. And today we're excited to present another IndyCar event brought to you by the Dark Horse IndyCar Series. From the Unzers to Mears, Foyt, and Andretti, now it's Corley, Peterson, Davies, Gardner, and Teague. You can expect high speeds, incredible wheel-to-wheel action, and intense drama that you can only get in an IndyCar. So sit back and enjoy your favorite drivers from all over the world take the track. Dark Horse IndyCar drivers, start your engine.
Car is going to make the left-hand turn to pit road. We're back underway here at Daytona. Jason Gracias and that number 1 Toyota Camry. The control car leads us back to green. Chicano took the inside. Caldwell decided to take the top side, which was rather interesting. And now David Durand, who's second on the inside line, going to try to push the 95. Wow. Did we wave off the yellow flag, or the green flag here? Because nobody on my telemetry seemed to have an issue.
Not exactly sure. Looks like it may have been an admin issue. Admin was trying to clear off black flags and accidentally threw the caution. I think we've both personally been there before.
I've definitely been there. The worst one is when you're trying to clear a black flag and you add a lap to somebody, and then you have to spend the entire 10 remaining laps of fixing that issue.
The NR 2003 gods are relentless.
So we'll rack them up and do it again. I gotta wonder now, do the drivers, with where they were when that caution came out, do they have to line up in the same rows that they were in on the last restart, or do they kind of get a rechoice again?
That I'm not sure of. I imagine they would probably get a rechoice.
Because I was really surprised. Caldwell was third coming off of pit road. And when Chicano took the inside, I thought that more than likely we were going to see Cam Caldwell, his teammate, line up down there with him, see if the two could maybe tandem together and get to the point. But no, Caldwell took the outside line behind Gracias. So a little interesting there, and wonder what the strategy was in that regard. Gracias is actually, I believe, still trying to get around here to catch up to the iRacing pace truck. There it is, out of turn 4.
I will say, I am really surprised how much Gleason and Lewis were sleeping on that restart. Those top 2 rows are really just on it. They pulled away. The 7 and the 8 team were just sitting there.
And Gracias coming back down pit road. What would be the strategy here?
Fuel. Obviously trying to top off the tank. Here's the thing, if you have the opportunity, might as well get those few extra laps, see if you can make it to the end.
And he, along with Garrett Gleason, Kyle Lewis, and Austin Grover, are going to be the 4 electing to come down this time and top off that fuel tank, which is going to turn the race lead over here to Alonso Chicano. This is going to make things interesting once again here with these two guys, because depending on what lane Chicano takes, does Caldwell take the opposite, or does he line up nose to tail with the 95? They might be able to line up on the front row and pull the Joey Logano coin phrase, the okie dokie, get themselves lined up that way, but it'll be interesting to see what the strategy is with these two guys. It'll be Durand, Doziak Jr., and Tellier who'll be the top 5 when we go back green on the next restart.
Obviously,
somewhere in the vicinity of, what, about maybe 34, 35 laps to go.
Yeah, honestly, I'm expecting Alonso and Cam to really work together here, and I can easily see Durand, Tellier, and Doziak lining up almost nose to tail of each other. However, past that, I kind of get a little bit of a question mark of I don't know how we're going to line up. I can only assume just off of personal friendships and alliances where these guys might end up. Also, maybe Mike Tellier could go behind both Chicano and Caldwell.
And it looks like, well, not sure if they're indicating right now where they might be taking the lanes, as we should, I believe, get the 1 to green signal this time by. It almost looked like, at least with where they were running there through 3 and 4, Chicano may be taking the bottom and Caldwell may be taking the top. We'll see if that's the case here. If the lights do go out atop the pace truck, we'll see if these drivers dart to the left or right, indicating the lanes they want for the restart. Chicano to the top, Caldwell to the top. So there you go. They're actually going to line up nose to tail here for this restart. Durand says, thank you very much. I'll pick up a spot here under caution and move up to the second spot on this restart. Doziak Jr. going to follow in line behind him.
Man, I'm seeing that top line. That top line is loaded with people that I know easily communicate with each other and know how to work with each other. That is going to become a big threat. But I'm seeing Durand and Doziak on the bottom, and Doziak was a really good pusher, albeit when he wasn't blinking out, but he was a really good pusher.
Saving grace of that caution, that first caution for both Austin Grover and Mike Tellier to get back up in this lead pack. And as we saw there, just before we went to the commercial break, the 98 of Tristan Maher was actually allowed to go around, get his lap back. So all 11 drivers that started this race, continue this race, all on the lead lap. And just an update as well, a couple of drivers along with Tristan Maher used their faster pair there under the first caution. The 7 of Garrett Gleason, who you documented got up into the wall, and also the 83 of Austin Grover used his faster pair. So 3 drivers, already a faster pair in the hole, not even to the halfway point.
I didn't think Gleason was that damaged, but maybe that wall hit did a lot more than we expected.
So those drivers going to have to maybe tiptoe for the next 20 laps or so, keep the fenders on those race cars, that way they're around at the end to try and pick up the first checkered flag of the season. It's Chicano on the top, David Durand on the bottom. Chicano's got a fellow Camaro behind him and Cam Caldwell, but it'll be a Ford on the inside behind David Durand in the form of Steven Doziak Jr. Here we go, lap 25 about to be completed, lap 26 on the board, second restart of the night at Daytona.
And you can tell who is working with each other there. The entire top line, they were all in the same communication. With that bottom line of Durand and Doziak, they were the only people ready.
Yeah, Matt Monticelli in the 84 was not prepared, along with Kyle Lewis. They lose about 2-3 car lengths.
Just wait for the run.
55.
Wait for the run out of an 84. It's going to end up coming here, at least on the back straightaway. Now, here's the big question. Is he going to keep in line, or is he going to try and make it 3?
And I'm almost wondering about that 97 of Mike Tellier there. He's got a big push from Tristan Maher. Would he force the issue 3 wide here, possibly into turn 3? See that bit of a gap between himself and the 12.
I'd say I know Mike wants to win this, but obviously he's got 2 teammates in front of him he's trying to work with. I don't know.
David Durand going to edge ahead here to the start-finish line. There's that 2-car tandem that we were talking about. 2 cars, 24.55 for the time being, able to hold off that top side, but Chicano with the big run through the center of the tri-oval. He tries to edge ahead into turn 1. You've got 5, 6 cars lined up on the top, 4 cars on the bottom.
Easily right now, I'm thinking that bottom line wins just because it's a preferred lane around the track, but that top line only has 2 cars helping. Now that third car of Mike Tellier, he can't really do very much. I mean, it's kind of one of those classic, you don't push the pusher, or you possibly turn him into the field. But I'm also noticing up front, it looks like Durand and Doziak may be having a little bit of connection issues.
How much of a distraction is that when you're trying to push a driver or have a driver push you?
Easily when you have fractions of a second as reaction time. That little blink, it runs through your head, gets you distracted, and it forces you into a mistake. As you see, almost Alonso Chicano came down onto Durand.
And that was Cam Caldwell a little loose through the center of the tri-oval as well. Seen a couple of cars doing a bit of dancing. Matt Monticelli was a little bit loose off of turn 2 the last time by, and that actually forced Tristan Maher to have to go up the track. And yeah, there's Doziak getting loose. I mean, a lot of air moving around with these cars, it would seem.
Doziak just doesn't seem settled. not as much as everyone else in this field has. So I wonder if he's trying something different.
Kano by half a car length edges ahead, but now it's going to be Durand. And keep an eye on the 90 of Tristan Maher back there because he's got Jason Gracias with him.
Yeah.
I saw him peeking out of line, and there he is. They're going to form a third lane together.
Right now, I don't know if I'd be doing that if I was Tristan Maher. I mean, we are literally almost at halfway. I've already burnt one fast repair. I don't know if it's go time yet. I have seen these top two. Oh, yeah. Seeing these top two go at it and seeing Durand have those issues, I'm almost looking at this like, man, this is easily gonna be another wreck if something goes wrong.
Not only was Durand dealing with the connection problems there, but also got his left sides down that double yellow line. Car got loose on him and almost came up into Alonso Chicano. Now the momentum is on the top side. Chicano to the point. Caldwell trying to clear for second. Mike Tellier alongside Durand for third. Ooh, might have been a little contact there. It was close. Definitely a reactionary turn to the right by Mike Tellier.
About to be trying to control both lanes. That's what we're really trying to do. You see both the 95 and the 12 controlling both the inside and the outside. They're trying to control the pace of this race, saying, hey, let's have both of us up front, really focus on blocking the guys behind. Tellier has Cam in front of him. And Cam is knowing that Tellier's not really going to pull out on him, has a little bit of trust. But Alonso's got both the 24 and the 55. 55's dropped down into the apron. That outside is going.
Doziak down there on the apron, dropping to the back, possibly one of two things. Either dropping back there because the connection issues we were seeing him have earlier. Could also be he's noticing all the movement up here, and he doesn't want to be in the eye of the storm.
I really don't think Doziak doesn't want to be up there at the moment.
Caldwell going to get pushed to the race lead. Tristan Maher, he stays on the top. Here comes Jason Gracias. Those two going to hook up once again. Move the 98 back to the point. Pole Center follows him into second. And Garrett Gleason now going to follow in line. He's going to get alongside of Cam Caldwell for the third position.
Again, like I mentioned, it's not very often we see Garrett Gleason go on the attack, but man, he is just showing it today.
Sometimes it depends on the car, depends on the sub, depends on the guys you're racing around. It can build your confidence and make you actually be a little bit more aggressive than you normally are. He almost put a block there on Chicano, who was in the middle. Now he's going to tuck in front of Tristan Maher, I believe, or correction, that's Doziak in the 55. He's going to move into the fourth spot, jumps back up to the top again. Look at him use the side draft against David Durand, trying to get third.
Man, just look like that. Garrett Gleason got all the way shuffled back to 8th, 9th. I mean, that is just how quickly this race can turn in these cars.
Maher going to try and make a move on Chicano. Couldn't do it because now Monticelli is to his inside. Caldwell with that clean air has got Mike Tellier as his wingman. David Durand down there on the inside with them as well. Top side starting to form. Tristan Maher pushing the 95 along to Chicano. Big run for those two down the back straightaway. They'll at least get the 95 alongside of Tellier for second into 3.
You know, I've got a really big question. I wonder if it's on your mind too. Would you rather be side by side on the final lap or be a car that has a 2-car tandem, maybe 1 or 2 car lengths back?
Oof. That's a good question.
Just
I think
run.
It's based off of situation. It depends on who I've got lined up behind me and who's about 2 or 3 car lengths back that could work together, because I'll tell you what, that 90 and that 1. Yeah, he's going to be dropping back. No friends as Kyle Lewis up on the top side there, helping Tristan Maher. Chicano's going to find a space down in line. Looked like that might have taken Monticelli a little bit by surprise as he pulled down low, not expecting the 95 was going to turn left in front of him, I think.
Monticelli still has a little bit of damage on that car, but I could easily tell that Monticelli did not want Alonso Chicano in line, and he was hoping he was a little bit closer than he actually was. But right now, I think really the good idea is Matt's doing a great job saving that fast repair for later in the race because he knows there's going to be some big accident and he might get in it.
All of a sudden, that top line going away. There's Tellier jumping up to the top. I'm not necessarily certain this is him making a move. I think he spent so many laps running behind the 12. He's jumping up there to get some clean air to the nose, cool those temperatures down.
And just think, if someone loses an engine in a pack like this, I mean, that is almost the whole field that goes with it.
Oh, yeah, there's just no time to react if that takes place, especially if it's a car that'd be on the inside line going into a corner with them side by side several rows
Look at Jason
deep.
Gracias. Tristan Maher is back.
Those two, when they get hooked up, they are able to generate some amazing runs, and they're not afraid to go up the extreme outside line, but Chicano didn't leave him a lane off of 4.
Yeah, I'd say Alonso's playing a tough game. He's trying to defend both the middle and the high line while not losing any ground on Chicano on the bottom. Or sorry, Caldwell on the bottom.
I'm going to point this out. Remember, the first caution that came out was for an engine failure, Tristan Maher, and that was on the 19th lap of our green flag run at the start of the race. These drivers just now completing lap 14 onto the 15th lap, so we're getting into that realm again where drivers are going to have to be very conscious of what their water temps look like.
Easily so, but I think a lot of these guys are also looking at that fuel tank and really trying to decide what they need to do to make it to the end, or at least try to take the least fuel possible for this race.
That's interesting. Let's go back to talk about Garrett Gleason coming down pit lane from the race lead under the second caution to top off the fuel tank. There were about 3-4 other drivers that came down with him, but they're all running outside the top 7 currently. So even if he were to come to pit road a lap or 2 later than everybody else, I'm not necessarily certain if he would have enough drivers coming down with him to be able to keep him up in this lead pack.
I don't know, but Mike's pulling out. I don't know.
Oh no, Chicano! And he's going to collect up Tristan Maher. He then in turn collected up Mike Tellier.
Ooh.
No caution.
Caldwell still fighting it, sliding back up on track. Saves it.
Chicano also saved it. Tristan Maher with some damage on the left side of his machine. He's on the apron. No caution for that. Amazing that the yellow flag did not come out. We didn't really have a spin. The 50, or make that the 98 was maybe, there's a caution. And I'm guessing that might have possibly been an admin thrown caution since there was not a yellow for that contact on the back straightaway.
Correct, it was. And I'm just looking back at that instant now. I almost want to call it a little bit of blocking and a really bad bump. Almost just really poor timing from Maher's perspective. 'Cause I'm looking here at Maher, and he's trying to really push Chicano ahead. Chicano, I don't know if it got bumped and maybe went down the track a little bit or just decided to pull down. When he pulled down, he realized that he was giving Maher a lane, pulled right back up. And unfortunately, Maher was already there. And Maher just kind of tagged Chicano, sent him. And Caldwell was almost an innocent victim. He saw what was going on, tried to get out of the way, and he just got tagged in it.
Yeah, I want to correct myself. I said it was Mike Tellier was the car that Tristan Maher came down into. That was Caldwell in the 12, and well, these guys had to be kind of careful too. Talking about the 98 and the 12 because they went down into the road course section. That chicane on the back straightaway. You saw them actually hop up into the air there with the pavement to grass transition.
Absolutely, but now you got to think how this affects the outcome of the race. I mean, look at Maher's car. Maher's car is easily dented up on the front. I don't know if he can go as fast as he can before. Obviously, maybe in draft he can still get those kind of speeds, but he's not going to be a lead car. This also affects Jason Gracias because he was really working with Maher.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Am I seeing a little bit of right front damage on that one machine?
I am, and I'm not exactly sure where it came from.
So Jason Gracias with a little bit of damage as he disappears into the iRacing pace truck.
He's just saying hi.
He's just saying hello to Brett.
Man, what it would be to drive a truck around here.
Oh, boy. So pit road will be open. This is interesting, too, because we ended up seeing the longest run be 19 laps, and everybody came to pit lane. We don't necessarily know the furthest these guys can go, but by my calculations, we're going to be going back green in the realm of about 20 to go, so everybody should probably be good to make it the rest of the way of what they've got in the tank.
I think they should be able to make it to the end. It may be a little bit dicey as it goes further on. I don't really know the full extent of that cycle, but we almost made it a full 20 laps before that first caution came out.
Jason Gracias in that one machine, waiting to see if maybe they will repair that right front damage. Doesn't look like it as David Durand down and away. I'm assuming that was a gas and go for him. And he'll be coming out as the race leader.
You know, I really don't know if tires will really affect the car here, if it'll make it feel any better. I mean, really, the only time I wanted to take tires is when I was coming off of pit lane, because new tires off of pit lane made it feel really nice and you could really pound the car and push. But since we're going yellow flag pit stops, I don't really know what the advantage is.
Looks like it was gas and go for David Durand, 2 tires. For Austin Grover, they're going to be the first 2 off of pit lane, and then everybody else did take on tires. Steven Doziak Jr., Kyle Lewis, Garrett Gleason, that's going to be the top 5. And it looks like Jason Gracias may be feeling that that wasn't the last caution of the day. Despite that right front damage, he spent the extra time on pit road to get that right front fender repaired, kept his faster pair intact. To be honest, I like that call.
I mean, you got to think, do I want to spend this fast repair on fixing that fender? Or do I want to possibly take it after I barrel roll through the air and lose the engine?
It's going to be about 20 laps remaining here, especially if the lights go out this time. We had other drivers as well that elected not to take the faster pair here. Cam Caldwell and Matt Monticelli, who I'm guessing must have gotten a little piece of that incident on the back straightaway.
Ooh,
they spent
man.
a little extra time on pit lane as well.
Grover was kind of the odd man out on the outside, but look at Garrett Gleason. He's trying the outside lane.
He'll be the one lined up behind Austin Grover, so you'll have a couple of Camaros up there. The Chevrolet of David Durand will be leading us back to green, and he'll have Steven Doziak Jr. behind him. This is actually the second restart that David Durand and Doziak Jr. are going to be nose to tail. So they've got a little bit of experience with drafting with each other. We'll see if there's going to be some communication between those two here, with the 24 being the control car.
I don't know if Garrett is really going to get in the back bumper of Austin Grover and really push him on along, but I'm still seeing the 55 have those connection issues on the bottom. So I think those really kind of even themselves out.
It'll be interesting to follow. 12 of Cam Caldwell, the 95 of Alonso Chicano, and, well, actually, correction on the Chicano machine. I thought that he might have been another one that didn't take on his faster pair, but he did. So he's now a faster pair in the hole. But Gracias and Caldwell, you just need to see about them, how up to speed they really are going to be with choosing not to take on the faster pair there under this caution. It is officially going to be 20 laps to go. These drivers should be good to make it the rest of the way on fuel. We're going to have to see, though, if these 11 drivers who are still all on the lead lap, if they'll be all still in one piece by the time we get to the checkered flag. Still a long ways to go, a third of this race left to run as the pace truck makes the left-hand turn to pit road. Let's turn them loose one more time. They're in the hands of that 24 Napa Chevrolet of David Durand.
Oh, and Austin realized his mistake there. Austin was not the leader, and he almost got a really good jump. Realized what was happening, slammed the brakes, let Durand and Doziak back on by, but man, that has killed the outside lane.
I'm not necessarily certain that outside line was going to get going anyway. There was a lot of space between Grover and Gleason. They were not lined up together. Now the top side's actually going to be the 55 of Doziak. He's got Kyle Lewis as his wingman.
Absolutely. Lewis does not look stable on that top lane.
Moving around there, side to side, trying to line up the front bumper of his Camry to the back bumper of the Mustang of Doziak Jr. Inside line, pushes ahead. Chicano pushing Durand to the point. Now he'll jump to the top side. Mike Tellier not quite clear on the 55 to jump up there as well, but Chicano might lead this lap barely. Let's see at the line. Yes, give it to the 95.
You got to think, these are memories that these guys are just floating, kind of paging back in their head saying, hey, when it's lap 59 of 60, I mean, this is where I need to be, and this is how much room I need to complete this move.
I think we have to bear in mind here as well, with the 95 already using his faster pair, usually...
Look at the 98! Look at Maher! Maher's up here!
Oh, but getting left out to dry. He tried to tuck in front of Chicano, could not do it. Nobody going to help him as he's in the sucker hole going to the back.
And I thought he was going to push it on the 84 for a minute, trying to get back in, but he's still fighting in that middle lane. See if anyone wants to go with him.
I was going to point out, too, for Tristan Maher, for Alonso Chicano, these are drivers that have already used their faster pair, and I would usually say to Superspeedway, the safest place to be if you're already a faster pair in the hole would be at the front of the field, but let's not forget, the last caution started with drivers that were running first and second at the time.
Ooh, and it's a little bit dicey back there.
Yikes, he almost got the wall, then almost got the right side of Tristan Maher there through turns 1 and 2.
Man, these cars just right there, it just does not seem stable, at least in 3 wide in the corners. But obviously these guys up front making it work. Look at Mike Tellier. Mike Tellier and David Durand, two guys that I have not seen pushing together today. They're 1-2.
Let's not forget the day started out for Mike Tellier, him losing the lead pack. He was in danger about 10 laps away from being put -1 to the race leaders. The caution comes out, gives him new life. He's got a shot at this victory. Cam Caldwell right there behind as well. That car appears to still be up to speed despite spending over a minute on pit road getting damage repaired under the last caution.
And there really seems to be almost a 4-car breakaway here at the moment, as it looks like, actually, it appears right now that Doziak might be getting a little bit of a draft, but look at the closing rate that 5th car has in line. Everyone here is just really stuck by that aero bubble, but the moment that the car, maybe from about a half a second back, really gets that right. Look at Chicano. Look at this.
And he's going to push the 55. You got Kyle Lewis there as well. Caldwell's the man stuck in the middle this time. Oh, the way these guys are dancing around, though. 3 wide makes me nervous.
Yeah, that's the thing. Doziak was trying to put a little bit of pressure on Caldwell, trying to make him maybe hesitate just a little bit. But unfortunately, Chicano is teammates with Caldwell, so Doziak got hung out to dry.
You saw David Durand off before. He wanted to move up, wanted to block that run, but he also wanted to make sure Mike Tellier wasn't going to make a move on him. Now he's got Cam Caldwell to driver's right. Those two going to be dead even off of turn 2 and down the back straightaway.
And here's the thing. You see Doziak get shuffled back to the back of the field, but I almost guarantee maybe give him about 2-3 laps. He will be right back up there in this fight. And you see Gracias on the outside.
Big push there from Chicano to Caldwell. Gracias looks to the top. No drafting help for the moment, but he kind of generated that run all by himself. Oh, there's just barely enough room for a car to fit. He keeps trying to look to that right rear of the 95, but Chicano will not give him that option.
Man, I'm telling you, Chicano is going to end up causing a wreck here. I mean, just of how he's blocking. It's great defensive air.
Oh, no, there they go. Chicano up and into the wall. Other drivers scattering as Monticelli is collected up. Another driver down the apron. I believe that was Steven Doziak Jr. Right in the middle of the pack. And you talked about it. The blocks that were being made there by the 95 might have led to that. He was in the middle, in the sucker hole through the tri-oval last I saw him.
So that almost kind of wasn't entirely on Chicano, I will admit. So looking at back here, he really was trying to stun out the run of the one of Gracias, but in doing that, he also almost killed the run of both him and Caldwell. Chicano went to the middle, trying to make that middle line work. It almost looks like Matt Monticello kind of pushed up off that bottom lane a little bit and just caught the left front of Chicano's car. And Gracias did a really smart move not taking that fast repair earlier. He got a bunch of damage out of that.
Absolutely. Definitely good call on his part. The 84 of Matt Monticelli, remember, did not utilize his fast repair as well. So big break for both of those drivers. And I just noticed there as well, we're going to take another camera angle, but I noticed that not only the 84, but also the 18 of Kyle Lewis, both those drivers seem to have a lot of difficulty keeping their cars on that inside line. Both seem to kind of be swerving up a little bit there, maybe a half groove higher than they should have been in a 3-wide situation.
Partially, I don't know if it's the cars are not stable, but I'm also looking at both Lewis and Monticello, and they were really just pinging off that bottom apron line, just shooting back up the track. I think that was a little bit of maybe inexperience and also just not knowing how this car is going to work at the moment.
So we know that obviously the one of Jason Gracias, rather, he's going to be on pit road and probably use his fast repair here. Matt Monticelli, he's going to be coming to pit lane as well. Chicano, he's already used his fast repairs, so they're just going to have to try and repair that thing as best they can. His day more than likely is over. But what about everybody else? I mean, do you come to pit road? Do you take on tires? Well, Mike Tellier is going to give up second place.
Tellier and Gracias think the exact same, but Gracias really needs to take that fast repair at the moment. Just look at the front of his car.
See the splitter area all skewed on our pole sitter.
Oh, Mike misses spit box. And
how costly that's going to be.
Looks like, yes, Gracias did, in fact, take a fast repair. Looks like Mike was only doing a gas and go, so he got out pretty quickly. It looks like Gracias is also replacing all 4 tires.
And indeed, Jason Gracias taking the fast repair there. Looking to see if anybody else that came down pit road is utilizing the fast repair. Yep, Matt Monticelli taking his fast repair as he's down and away.
And here's where it kind of shoots in the foot. Look at Chicano. Chicano really could not afford that to happen to him. He already burned up one faster pair earlier in the race. Now he is having to sit.
The question is, will he be able to keep himself on the lead lap? And even if he does, how up to speed is he going to be? Cam Caldwell there in the 12th. I didn't see him get a piece of the incident, but he also sits on pit lane for what would appear extensive repairs on his number 12 machine, not utilizing the faster pair yet again. I'm almost wondering if this might be repairing some damage from the earlier incident.
Most likely he got a little bit of the 95 of Chicano in that last accident. But I think he's doing a really good job not taking the faster pair. I mean, here's the thing. Even though we have, I'd say about 10 laps left on the go green, there's unlimited green-white checkers. We could be here for another hour.
Waiting for the lights to go out atop the pace truck. Our last restart was 20 to go. Looks like this next one could be in the vicinity of 10 laps to go as, well, I think these drivers already knew that the lights were going out atop the pace truck. You saw David Durand immediately take the left-hand turn to choose the inside line. Lewis will line up to his outside in second. Then Austin Grover, Steven Doziak Jr., and Tristan Maher are going to be the top 5. Has he used a faster pair? Tristan Maher has used a faster pair. At what point, if you're these guys that are already the faster pair in the hole, at what time is it just time to kind of throw caution to the wind, go for it, and either bring home the trophy or bring home the steering wheel? Because we know that these runs generate so quickly. So, I mean, can you wait till 2 to go, that white flag lap?
Normally, if it was any other car, I'd really say, all right, when we get inside 5 to 3 laps to go, all right, that's when I really got to start pushing this charge because I need to get to the front of his field to be here if something happens. But with how these cars' runs really go, honestly, I'd be confident pushing on the last lap of really trying to almost do Dale Earnhardt and coming through the field in the final lap. I think it would work here.
We'll see if push is going to come to shove here. So far, we've only seen one driver fall victim to the high water temps, and I have a feeling that we're going to, especially in the closing stage of this race, see drivers, if not have the same issue, be borderline, because I think it's going to get to the point where they're going to, especially on the final lap, be pushing somebody, and if the engine blows, well, then the engine blows. But at least they know that they did the best they could of trying to get that car in front of them out in front and give themselves a chance at this victory. Should be a very exciting last couple of laps, but we've got about 15 laps to be able to set it up here as David Durand going to lead us back to the green, 4th restart of the evening. Again, all 11 drivers still on the lead lap as Tristan Maher looked like he may have spun the tires a little bit there.
No, it really was Austin Grover didn't get going, and Maher just pounded him in the rear bumper. Doesn't look like any damage on the 2 of those cars, but definitely set that inside lane back.
And that outside line, though, not going to get as formed up as I thought they were going to be. Doziak Jr. now gets the back bumper of Kyle Lewis. Let's see what they can generate off of turn 2 and down the back straightaway. Mike Tellier up there as well as a fresh number 1 for Jason Gracias.
I'm seeing the give you wings on the back of Mike Tellier's car, and I'm going to tell you, he's hoping that doesn't come to fruition. But really, these cars really fly through the field like they have wings when there's a 2-car tandem. As it looks like, Kyle Lewis maybe on the losing end here.
Yeah, his car again, even though he was the push-E rather than the pusher, was having a tough time holding a line. Bouncing off of Tristan Maher there through the trial, but we know that this is one of the sketchier areas of this super speedway, especially in a 3-wide situation when a car is not handling well.
I think that's frustration at this point listen, we just killed this entire outside lane and really just trying to claw and see whatever you can make back. I'm seeing Matt and the 84 really trying to make that inside line work.
Also saw Jason Gracias really high up the track there as I'm not certain if he might have maybe brushed the wall a tiny bit or not. It was borderline, but yeah, a couple of Fords now hooked up. Tristan Maher and Steven Doziak Jr. on the top, trying to get alongside of race leader David Durand, who up to this point has done a pretty masterful job of keeping them in his rearview mirror.
Maher may look like a brick, but man, that thing flies.
Bricks can fly.
They land. Quite aggressively. Quite aggressively.
Gravity is still a thing.
Return back to Earth.
Mike Tellier now going to push Tristan Maher in that middle line.
Mike Tellier's involved.
And there's a lot of drivers in that one. Kyle Lewis gets a piece. Garrett Gleason, whoa, look at the 55. catch that access road there as he jumps up in the air. There's the 97 of Mike Tellier. The caution flies, and oh boy, this might take quite a number of our front runners out of this one, because I'm seeing at least 2 drivers that have already used a faster pair that got some pretty extensive damage in this one.
Let me take a look back at that, because really it looked like it originated from Mike Tellier here, and it almost looks like a bad bump. Oh, it almost looked like Mike was trying to get back out, trying to get a little bit of air to that nose, and just caught the back bumper of the 98 and just popped him sideways. And this is what we were talking about, is getting onto the right of someone's car. The moment that Maher went to go and recover the car, Mike was already there, and Mike just hooked him into the wall. That easily took out those two. It looks like, ooh, I think Jason Gracias may have gotten a little bit of touch of that.
Nice job by Garrett Gleason getting on the brakes and able to snake his way through on the apron. And you saw right there that hit with the front end for the 98 of Tristan Maher. Again, already a faster pair in the hole. And the last thing you want to do at a super speedway is make contact with the front end of the car, because so much aerodynamics comes into play with that front nose. And that could be day over for Tristan Maher, just 7 laps away from the finish.
And really, that was a good rally by Maher, even with all the damage on that car, still stayed in it. I'd say as long as he's still running, I'd keep running as well. Just trying to see, I mean, again, this is a season after all, and there will be a championship at the end of it. Just try and see what points you can salvage at the moment.
David Durand continues to show the way. He'll be the leader on this upcoming restart. Austin Grover second. Matt Monticelli, Jason Gracias, Cam Caldwell's going to be the top 5. See a driver ducking for pit lane. That's Alonso Chicano in the 95. A couple other drivers back there pitting as well, but most of them were involved in the incident. Mike Tellier, Steven Doziak Jr., and Kyle Lewis. By the way, those 3 that I just mentioned, they still have their faster pairs intact, so they may be utilizing them here under this caution. But yeah, going back to the point you were talking about of trying to get air to the nose and getting onto that right rear quarter panel, I'm not necessarily certain if maybe, just possibly, the 55 had to bail out of the throttle just a little bit there with what was happening ahead of him, and the 97 had such a big run that that's what led to that contact. So we're getting ready here for our 5th restart of the day.
My mic was off. But nothing really against Mike here, where Mike definitely tried on that. Tried to push. I mean, obviously, last 10 laps, you're going to try to make that push, but you get a lot of guys who may have not been in that situation, may have not been pushing that aggressively up here in the final few laps, and that sort of mistakes start to show.
So we're going to get the restart with possibly 5 laps to go, depending on if the lights go out top the pace car this time. Kyle Lewis, Mike Tellier, and Steven Doziak Jr., they've all used their faster pairs. So now there's only 2 drivers in the field that still have their faster pair intact. Race leader David Durand and the 12 of Cam Caldwell running in the 5th position. You talk about Tristan Maher there in the 98, just going out there logging laps. I mean, there's no guarantee that these drivers here are going to make it back to the start-finish line for the checkered flag. So, yeah, that thing's still running. Get it out there. Maybe you'll get a couple more positions higher than 11th place and be able to get at least some maximum points with the speed that car is able to turn here for the remainder of this race.
And unfortunately, he's not coming back out. But again, someone even like Alonso Chicano right now, of how damaged that car is. I mean, just think of catastrophe on the back straightaway. Almost all the cars in the field are involved. Hey, if you're slower, you're not in that wreck. You have a good chance to pass all of those cars.
Very impressed here with these last 2 restarts of how David Durand's been able to kind of control the runs. We'll kind of call him the Dale Jr. of the night, been able to choose which lane gets the run, keep everybody in his rearview mirror, but he's also had some drivers that have been pretty committed to his back bumper, allowing him to be able to do so. I'm almost wondering, though, when do those alliances go out the window? When is it every man for himself? And if that's the case, then what does David Durand do? Because as we saw early on in this race, it was very difficult for a driver to be able to hold on to the race lead with the runs that were generated. Yeah,
that's the thing of being in the lead is really just making you to a sitting duck here at the moment. But right now you kind of have to look at your resources here where I don't really think the 84 is going to end up working with Duran, but Doziak's been working with Duran almost all race. That's who I'm really aiming for, trying to get with. And by that time, I expect that high line to have a good enough run to get by me that I can start making a charge.
Folks, want to remind you that tomorrow night, Flatout Racing Network is going to be coming to you live from Edgewater Raceway as we're going to be covering the Rolling Thunder Gaming All-Star Race. Going to be a good one. They actually just had their open race last week. Some exciting finishes there with 3 drivers transferring into what's going to be a 29-car field. That's coming to you tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so be sure to join us for that. We got to finish out this one at Daytona, though. Green flag back in the air, 5 laps remaining, maybe.
And Duran got the jump of his life. Really, now that's going to put him in a sitting duck here at the moment because I don't think the 84 is going to file on behind him if he has room.
Top line's going to be the 83 of Grover. He's got Jason Gracias there with him. Gracias trying to go coast to coast, pole to win. Big run for that top line coming out of 2. They're going to get Grover alongside Duran down the back straightaway.
And look at Gracias here. Now you obviously know Gracias has been really good coming from the back to the front. Now you got to wonder if he's going to find a way to stay up here. And again, who's going to challenge him really?
Now Grover going to duck to the bottom, leaving Gracias says, thank you very much. I'll take the top spot. Now Gracias has to look back to, I believe that's the 12 of Cam Caldwell for that momentum to stay on the top side.
I don't think Caldwell's going to push him. I think he's maybe trying to push a 3 wide. No, he stays behind him. So that outside lane may have a resurgence here.
Let's not forget Austin Grover. We talked about Mike Tellier's early issues. Well, Grover was that other driver who lost the lead pack early on in the race and was in danger of going a lap down. Now he's leading this thing, but Gracias, with the run on the top side, looks to get to that right rear quarter panel off of 2.
And you got to remember, Grover has had an up and down race. He's really been fighting almost from the back of the field since the drop of the green flag. He's definitely trying to see if he can steal this race away.
Jason Gracias to the point. Caldwell helps get him there. Caldwell, though, has teammate Mike Tellier in tow. When does the 12 step out? Does the 97 go with him? Coming to 3 to go as Gracias jumps to the bottom.
What they were trying to do is they were trying to get Mike Tellier clear of Grover, but they just couldn't do it. So right now it looks like Jason Gracias is taking a bullet, trying to stay on that bottom lane.
Oh, very close to their right rear again. Almost took the 12 before they got to turn 1. Now they got to recover, wind it back up again, and try and generate another run. But now Caldwell. Oh, no! And Kyle Lewis collected up as well. Another big wreck off of turn 2. Oh, hard hit into the inside wall for Cam Caldwell.
And I can feel Mike Tellier's pain here at the moment.
Steven Doziak Jr. in the 55 involved in this one as well.
I think Garrett also in the 7 may have gotten a little bit of damage on that left side from Tellier. Or right side from Tellier.
There's Kyle Lewis. There is Mike Tellier. And there's only one bit of good news for one driver in this one, and that's Cam Caldwell. He's the only one that was involved in this incident that still had a fast repair intact. Let's go back and see what happened off of 2.
See, I'm looking here, and and yeah, I mean, that happened twice. Twice that happened, and you gotta think Mike Tellier is just kicking himself at the moment.
This time it was the left rear quarter panel. Nowhere for Doziak Jr. to be able to go, and yep, you're right, it looked like Garrett Gleason did get a piece. Wow, there's that.
Realistically, it looks like when Mike hit the back bumper of Cam Caldwell, may have put him up the track a little bit. And I think Mike maybe tried to go up the track a little bit to help him and unfortunately hooked him.
We're going to look here from the back of the 12 of Cam Caldwell. Watching the 97 pulls right up to his bumper. Right there, I think he gets him a little bit loose and shoots him up the track. And just, they couldn't line the bumpers back up afterwards. And oh, right there, you got that safer barrier just off the exit of 2. Caldwell going to make some contact with the front of the car there as well. Well, we had about, 10 drivers in that lead pack up to speed with the contact exchange there, and however many drivers that were involved that do not have their fast repairs left. We may be down to only about 6-7 drivers that will still be in the running for this win as we're heading into overtime.
This is where now we're in the green-white checkered area, and again, there's unlimited green-white checkers. We can be here for another 30 minutes if these drivers just can't keep it straight.
And again, the only driver in the field now, with Cam Caldwell coming down pit lane, would be David Durand, that still has a faster pair available. Caldwell just now took his faster pair on, so if we end up having those unlimited green-white checkers, I mean, my goodness, it might come down to survival of the fittest for these guys. And Tristan Maher is officially out of the race now, so he will finish 11th here this evening. Not the way he wanted to start out this season here in the TNR Sunday Night Superspeedway Series.
And here's my thing. I mean, it doesn't really matter how many laps you lead. The most important part is just being there at the end and having the shot just to fight for it. And that's the biggest problem is a lot of these drivers just, they fought early in the race. They burned up their faster pairs early, and they're just not here at the end to fight for the win.
I called this the Superspeedway Series, right?
Yes.
Okay, I was kind of wondering if we should tell Jason Gracias that, because he just ran the road course section on the back straightaway there. That chicane just midway down the back straight.
That's all fun and games, so the admins decided to put that course in for next season.
Oh boy. Not sure you can classify that as a Superspeedway race then.
I mean, we're just going to add it with ramps. Make it indie road course.
Put a lot of banking in there, and then you're fine. Yeah, that'll handle to over 200 miles per hour for sure.
If an F1 car can do it, NASCAR can do it.
So again, for the green-white checkers, for those that aren't familiar, these drivers will get the green flag. They have to make it back to the white flag without a caution coming out. And then I'm not certain, you can correct me on this, I don't know if the next flag ends the race or if they actually just race it back to the checkered flag at that point.
So if it's white flag, it's really just race back to the checkers. No caution can come out under white. It is going to be just a plain race back to the line.
So it's going to be interesting here as it's going to be Gracias choosing the bottom. Grover, who was going to line up second, decides to line up on the inside with Gracias. Durand will then move up a spot to the top side of row 1, so he'll be second on the restart. And I'm not certain who's going to be up there with him. It's going to be Chicano in the 95. He was just kind of lagging back a little bit there. Matt Monticelli will be third in the inside line, and Cam Caldwell will be lining up in the 6th position. Again, though, it's going to be interesting to see about some of these guys back there, like Doziak Jr., Mike Tellier. I mean, how up to speed are these guys going to be? You can see the battle scars on those cars at the rear of the field.
Like, I'm looking at the front of Mike Tellier, and he's got a little bit of left front damage, but I think as long as he stays tucked up on another car, he should be fine. The rear spoiler is most what I'm worried about. I think Garrett Gleason may have almost partially shot himself in the foot. I mean, I'm seeing the two damaged cars in front of him, and I don't know if he's going to get that great of a takeoff.
Well, we've seen a lot of alliances here this evening. I guarantee you, they're all out the window now. 10 drivers going to be taking this green, and all 10 are in it for themselves. Will we get just one overtime green-white checkered? We're about to find out. Look how we got 3 on the inside. 7 cars choose the top side. A topsy-turvy looking restart here with the choose cone rule. Green flag back in the air. Gracias with a great jump. He's hoping that that 83 is going to stick with him. Durand's got Chicano as his wingman. Chicano's going to take it 3 wide.
That's the thing. Chicano wasn't on the bumper of Durand at all. And that kind of made Durand not want to help him. And there you see Caldwell. Caldwell's now on the bumper of Durand trying to help.
Inside line getting the preferred jump through 1 and 2. Gracias to the point. Grover not clear for second as Caldwell with a big push to the 24. They're going to have a big tow down the back straightaway. Durand alongside of Gracias for the race lead. Now Grover takes it 3 wide.
Oh, I don't know about this. I think Gracias is going to get a good run on the last lap. I don't know about this.
Will they make it back to the white? A couple more corners to go as Gleason gets a little loose. Almost up into Mike Tellier. Durand back to the point. Grover and Caldwell for second. Caldwell with a big push from Jason Gracias. I think they're going to make it. White flag in the air. Durand in the grass. He's so good. We're back to the white. We're going to race to the checkers. Durand out of it, though, with all that momentum lost. Gracias now to the inside of Caldwell into 1.
I never say never. He can still come back, but Gracias still fighting on that inside line. Caldwell doesn't have help, but he has Mike Tellier again.
Tellier going to help there. Here's the 83 of Grover. He's going to look to the middle. Now it's going to be Monticelli on the inside of him. 3 wide for second place. Gracias trying to figure out which lane do I block.
Look at Gleason.
Oh, Gracias to the inside to block the 84. Who's going to get the run here off of the final corner? 83 in the middle. Tellier going to get hooked. He saves it off the corner. Now he spins. Here comes the top side with Grover.
Oh, and he still has room.
Monticelli on the inside. Gracia's
Four
going to win a
wide.
four-wide finish at the start-finish line.
If Cam Caldwell had about a few extra 100 feet, he would have had it.
36 one-thousandths of a second between the top four. Wow.
Ay, ay, ay.
I mean, how impressive, first of all, that we got back to the white flag. David Durand with a tremendous save in the infield. And then, I thought when Jason Gracias had him 3 wide behind him going into 3, I thought it was over. I can't believe that 3 different lanes were able to come back, get alongside him by the time they got back to the start-finish line.
That is just insane.
That's replay worthy. We're going back and looking at that one. Holy Toledo. Look at this. Coming back to the start-finish line. Top side for Grover. Caldwell takes the second top line. And then you had down on the apron, Monticelli, all alongside of the one machine. Jason Gracia started on the pole. And he's going to finish where he started, coast to coast for the number 1.
I say if Caldwell just pulled out just a little bit earlier, he probably could have made the run to the line.
What a race here tonight in the season opener. We only went 2 laps over the scheduled distance. And Jason Gracias, I'd say he's done this a time or two. Beautiful burnout there, utilizing the slight banking on the apron as he celebrates here in Daytona in front of these fans. Ooh, gotta catch my breath here after that incredible green-white checkered. I mean, my goodness, more action happening quicker than I could call it.
And that's the thing, I mean, that is how quickly these cars, just of his package, can change. It just makes it such a run for line and such a strategy game where you have to kind of anticipate where your run's going to start and just hope that you have a lane.
We saw them taking it 3 wide, several rows deep in this one, 4 wide at the line. Next week, we go to an even wider Superspeedway at Talladega. I mean, these guys were tempted to go 3 abreast, 2 rows deep here. I hesitate to wonder what kind of 4 wide racing we could be in for next week as we take a look now at the official finishing results from this race. Cam Caldwell able to come back for a 3rd place finish behind Grover. Matt Monticelli in 4th. Garrett Gleason finishes out in the top 5. Alonzo Chicano in 6th. Doziak Jr. 7th. David Durand with that great save. They didn't wreck in front of him. I think he was hoping he could pick up a couple more spots there on that final lap. He'll finish in 8th. Mike Tellier with that spin off of 4 going to finish in 9th. Kyle Lewis did not make it back to that restart, so he'll finish from pit road in the 10th position. And, of course, Tristan Maher finishing last here tonight in that 11th position, the only car to finish behind the wall.
Good rally from Alonso Chicano. I mean, even with that damage of a car, you could tell easily he wasn't up to the speed as all the other cars, but he still hung around for a good top 10, almost stole a top 5.
Hey, look at some of these guys, too. Jason Gracias, Cam Caldwell, Matt Monticelli. Remember, these guys got some damage earlier on in this race, did not use the faster pair at the time they got that damage, spent the extra time on pit road, then got involved in some pretty big wrecks there in the closing stages, were able to use the faster pair then. And as you said, they were able to be around at the end when it mattered the most with the checkered flag on the line.
Aye. This really just sets up the rest of the season, just seeing how these drivers, they will only continue to get a little bit more knowledgeable about these cars as time goes on, and just seeing what they're able to do with some of these drivers only having about 30 minutes of practice to learn this car, which is almost radically different from the new Xfinity car we raced today.
What do you say? Let's see if we can talk with some of our top 3 finishers here this evening. Let's kick things off with Cam Caldwell. Hey, Cam, Matt, and Seth up here in the FRN booth. You got us?
Yep.
Oh, my goodness. What a race we were treated to here tonight. What an amazing finish. 4 wide at the line. Now, we were looking at that move you made there off of turn 4 coming to the start-finish line. Matt said that if you made that a little bit earlier, you might have had something there for the one machine. Going back in retrospect, do you think you would have made that move earlier, or was the lane just not available yet?
I don't know. I just kind of gave up after, because I think at one point on that last run, I was just kind of by myself on the top, and they all just kind of freight trained me on the bottom. So in 3 and 4, I just kind of gave up, and I saw Wags go up, and I just started to push him. And then coming to the finish, I saw a lane open, so I took it. But if this were Talladega, I might have had a chance at it. But the start finish line just came a little too fast for me.
Come on, Caldwell. We're the kings of never saying never, but realistically, I mean, how much did that damage affect your final run to the finish?
Well, so the run before the green white checkered, I hadn't used my fast repair at all, and I was kind of regretting it on that second to last run because I was pushing Jason, and then as soon as he cleared low, I just felt my car it felt like a parachute just grabbed on the back. So I just started falling back, and then eventually I got spun out. So I used my fast repair there, and then I was fine. I started just hauling once it got going again. Then there's a little miscommunication coming to the checker with me and Mike, where we were both trying to push Wags there, and we just kind of hit each other. But yeah, I don't know. The damage the first time wasn't too bad, but I just couldn't lead, I guess, and we didn't have enough laps for me to figure that out. But yeah, no, I think it would have been okay before the second to last caution, because that's when I got the majority of my damage.
Now, we knew coming into this race that the runs generated were going to be huge. It was going to be very difficult for drivers to be able to defend against that with so much momentum. But one thing that we noticed were a lot of drivers were having difficulty holding a lot of movement going on, especially when they were in the double wide and 3 wide situations. Was that a component of how these cars handle, or was it just that there were so many moves being made, a lot of air moving around and unsettling these race cars?
I think it was a mix of the air and also people just kind of mirror driving. The cars handle perfectly fine. If you could tell it straight, you'd be driving straight perfectly fine. But I think a lot of guys were looking in their mirrors and watching the guys behind them and seeing if they were going to make any moves, because the top line seemed to be the best if you get a couple guys up there. Like Jason, I think he was the best pusher all night. If you could get up there with him, you were going to the front. So I think a lot of guys were trying to figure out what lane they wanted to be in. And then that just caused some issues sometimes where, if we were 3 wide and then people start bouncing off of each other and then we go to wreck or whatever. But no, I think it's just a product of mirror driving and all the air.
Well, Cam, a great run for you here tonight in the season opener. Good way to start out the year, heading into Talladega next week. Congratulations on a tremendous performance. We're now going to give the opportunity to thank some sponsors and do some shout-outs.
Yeah, so thanks to my team, Radius Racing, all of our sponsors. We didn't have too many sponsored cars out here because it was the first race, so we're working on that. But thanks to everyone who watched. Thanks to you guys for broadcasting, and see you guys next week.
Cam Caldwell, P3 here tonight after a wild one at Daytona. Let's see if we can now dial up the second place finisher here this evening, Austin Grover. Hey, Austin, Matt, and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yeah, how's it going, guys?
Well, man, I'll tell you what a completely different race first half to second half. First half, we saw you lost the draft. You were running about 30 seconds behind the leader. A caution comes out, and your luck completely turns around. You finish this race in the second spot, but man, what a final green-white checkered there. Absolutely insane from our perspective. What was it like from the cockpit of the 83?
Well, the start of the race was insane. We wound up dinging the wall, getting some damage, took a fast repair. There at the end, though, it was insane. Straight up just mayhem. You were basically just trying to dive anywhere where there wasn't a car and hoping and praying you could put it out front. Made a run off of 4 there, hoping that I could get by Jason, but boy just had a good car.
Yeah, Austin, I just kind of want to hammer that home. I mean, is there anything else you could have done on that last lap? I mean, you were almost there. I mean, less than 0.036 is the gap between you and Jason Gracias.
Yeah, about the only thing that probably could have played into our favor there. I know coming through 3 and 4, I was looking in my mirror and I saw both Mike and Cam fight for the same place to get behind me and wind up just wadding it up. If that wouldn't have happened, I think we would have stood a chance, but I needed to have a pusher.
Now, we ended up seeing 3 wide several rows deep here tonight at Daytona. We ended up seeing 4 wide at the start-finish line. Next week, go into an even wider racetrack at Talladega. I mean, what's the expectations there, just based off what we saw here tonight?
Well, to be honest, I'm hoping we've got more folks that show up next week. Had a slightly smaller field than we would have hoped for tonight, but at the same time, It was a good showing. I hope everyone watching enjoyed it. And I'm hoping next week we can have more of that presentation for the fans because let's be honest, we do this to have fun and put on a good show for the folks at home.
Well, Austin Grover's going to bring it home second place here tonight at Daytona. Congratulations, Austin. We now turn the microphone over to you. Let you do some thank you, sponsors, and shout outs.
I just want to thank everyone who watched the stream tonight. Thank my fiance. She wanted to go and get some food and had asked me about midway through the race. Luckily, we were under caution. I want to shout out to her because, well, I didn't go with her. And,
Oh no!
well, obviously, I was in a race car. But yeah, just want to thank everyone who tuned in tonight. Had a good time. Hope they all had a good time watching us.
Austin Grover, second place here tonight in the season opener at Daytona. Congratulations once again, Austin, and hopefully keep this momentum up next week at Dega.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
And let's go down to victory lane and see if we can get the guy who went coast to coast here tonight, Jason Gracias. Hey, Jason, Matt, and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Hey guys, what's up?
Well, man, I mean, first off, congratulations on the victory. Not easy at a super speedway to be able to start first and finish first, but not necessarily an easy road to be able to do so. We end up seeing you get some contact there out on the racetrack. I have to utilize the fast repair late in this one, but walk us through that final green-white checkered because, man, you had to do a lot of blocking and figure out where all those runs were coming from.
Yeah, that last green and white checkered was really a doozy. I wanted to take the top, but I just felt more comfortable on the bottom with Austin Grover behind me. So we took the bottom. Then I saw the run that David was getting. So on the back straightaway, I kind of drifted up, tried to slow him down with the side draft. So I was playing with the side draft all race, trying to figure out where the sweet spot was. And I think I just left the bottom open too long. So Austin got underneath of me. I didn't want to cause a wreck, so I drifted backwards. And then David dropped in front, and then Cam got in front of me. And then from there, luck was on my side. So it was just very, very, very calculated and kind of like a chess move with that final couple restarts.
Well, let's talk about luck being on your side because when Mike Tellier and Cam Caldwell got together in turn one, it almost looked like you got right side damage out of it. How in the world did you miss that?
I'm not too sure. I honestly thought that they pegged my right side. So under the yellow, I had Cam pull up and check me for damage. He said I looked good. He said it was just kind of scuffed. So I guess iRacing's net code finally was on my favor over at NRSRA and the Truck Series. That net code was never in my favor. So I guess iRacing owed me one, and I'm thankful it did.
You know, when super speedway racing, there's all sorts of distractions out there. You're keeping an eye on everybody around you. As we know here tonight with these cars, the runs generate quite a bit, so you're trying to see where the runs are taking place. But we also know that with the way that these cars lock up, when you're a pusher, and a lot of people were saying you were one of the best pushers out there, you have to keep an eye on the water temps. I mean, just how much of a concern was it in this race about making sure that that did not spike? Because we ended up seeing early in this race a driver actually have an engine failure because of the high water temps.
Yeah. So water temps are always a concern, and these cars particularly, I guess, because where the get grill opening is, it's on the bottom, kind of by the splitter. So on lap 13 or 14, wherever me and Tristan finally linked up and had that massive run on the third line to the lead, going around on the end of the back straightaway is when my water temp was spiking. I was at 250 and climbing, so I had to back off and try to cool it down. And it actually took about 3 laps to get the water temps back to like a solid 230 where I was comfortable with pushing again. So um, that's something that I think for all the competitors out there, we're gonna have to keep an eye on. If it chooses to be problematic, maybe we can talk to the league admin about putting a different set with less tape. But I don't know if that's gonna cause a problem with the way the grills are positioned. But yeah, for sure, water temps are gonna be a big concern this season. But you just got to manage it like everything else in the race.
A great way for you to start off the season with a pole and a victory here at Daytona. Looking forward to seeing if you can maybe go 2 for 2 here in the first 2 races next week at Talladega. But for now, we're going to turn the microphone over to you and let you do some victory lane thank you sponsors and shoutouts.
Hey, yeah. So I ran this race unsponsored, so I am looking for a sponsor this season. So if you guys want to hop on the number one car, feel free to PM me over at the TNR forums. But yeah, thanks to everyone that put this together. I know Matt Rodriguez, and Mike Tellier were big in planning the series. So shout out to you guys for putting it together and for the broadcast. Thanks to TNR and Garrett for putting the platform for us to get together and race. And thanks to Radius Racing, Cam, Alonzo, Mike, David, all those guys. When we linked up, we worked together pretty well. So it's going to be a fun season. We had 11 cars out there today. So we put on a good show. So if you're watching from home, please come in and join. And shout out to Tristan too for working that third line with me all at race. I was looking for somebody to actually commit to running the top, and he did it. So hopefully next week at Talladega we can do it again because that third line is a lot of fun.
Jason Gracias gets the inaugural season of the TNR Sunday Super Speedway Series started with a trip to victory lane here tonight at Daytona. Congratulations, Jason, and go enjoy that win. We'll look to see how you do next week. Keep this momentum up at Talladega.
Yeah, thanks guys. Trulies are on me. Everybody gets one free Truly tonight. Let's drink up.
So as Jason Gracias continues to celebrate his victory here tonight, I mean, we knew coming in, Matt, just based off of the information you gave me and the viewers here tonight about how these cars handled the ability to generate a run, we knew that at least the end was going to be absolutely chaotic, but it also looked like we got a little bit of a go to school of what to expect even further as this race progressed on.
Absolutely. And you could tell as the laps turned by, a lot of these drivers were getting more brave or getting more confident of how they were driving these cars. And I really think when we go to Talladega next week, it is going to be a whole different world because we were really just running out of room here at Daytona. Just imagine a track as wide as Talladega with the runs these cars are getting. It will just be insane.
Going to be plenty of room for these drivers when we get to Talladega, Alabama. No doubt about that one. Well, your winner tonight, Jason Gracias, in the season opener here for the TNR Sunday Super Speedway Series. We hope that you guys will be joining us next week at Talladega as we will be bringing you coverage of that race at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's been a great one here tonight to start out the season, though. Matt, appreciate you joining me in the booth.
Always enjoy you being available.
And thanks to everybody that tuned in tonight. Hope again that you'll tune into a lot of broadcasts we've got coming up this week, kicking off tomorrow night with the Rolling Thunder Gaming All-Star Race from Edgewater Speedway. We've also got lots of action coming up with the Dark Horse IndyCar Series, Backfire Sim Racing Cup Series. A lot of stuff happening this week. And of course, as well, we've got some playoffs that are going to be starting in some respective series also. So be sure to keep it here on FRN. For Matthew Rodriguez, I'm Seth Cole. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.